Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for Killing Eve Season 2, Episode 3. Alright, so what an episode this week. Honestly, I was blown away. The first couple episodes for this season, I would say the first season was more of just, wrapping up all the kind of suspense and the kind of cliffhanger that they left us with in Season 1. And then Episode 2, slower paced again, but we're getting a little bit more into Villanelle, coming back to herself a little bit with Eve and all that dynamic, right? But this episode, so much happened in this episode. I mean, for me, when I was just going through it, watching it, I was like, they did this, they did that. Like, if you go from the beginning of the very beginning of the episode, as I will here with a recap, it's just crazy how much stuff happened in this one. So anyways, of course, yeah, like I said, we'll get to a recap. Then I'll talk about, give a rating for the episode, favorite character, some more overall thoughts, and then, of course, maybe a little bit of talk about next week's episode after the preview at the end of this one. So, again, love to hear you guys' thoughts, as always, for this episode. What'd you think of it? How does it compare to the other two episodes so far this season for you? For me, favorite one. Favorite one. I think it's the best one out of the three so far. And I'm hoping the rest of the season is at this level. I mean, I think a lot of people enjoyed the Season 2 premiere. It was a very good episode, don't get me wrong. But it's just, this was a change of pace, a little bit different of an episode compared to that one. So, anyways, love to hear your guys' thoughts on that one. And, of course, if you enjoyed the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate that as well. And I do want to thank you guys for the support on the previous reviews. Do really appreciate that as well. One of my favorite shows, so it's awesome to get some support talking about one of my favorite shows. Some I like doing, so it's really awesome. But anyways, without any further ado, let's get into the recap. This one might be a little bit longer, but like I said, ton of stuff happened in this episode, so I'll do my best to kind of recap everything that was at least important, or at least in my eyes, that was important. So, Constantine and Eve, right, at the very beginning of the episode here, we sit on the couch after we found out he's alive last episode. So, of course, that was kind of the big shocker of last week, right, where we found Constantine still alive there, sitting on the couch, and he says, "Hello, Eve," right? So I knew that this was coming. I said last week in the review that they're probably going to have this scene to start off the episode, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened with Constantine and Eve. Because, of course, Constantine has some explaining to do. We thought he was dead for, about a year in real time, but in the show, probably about a week or so, right? They've thought he's been dead. So for us, we need an explanation here. So anyways, so we don't find out how he's alive or how Carolyn saved him, if she even did, or how that all happened. But we do learn that MI6 is protecting his family and that they don't know he's alive. So his family is not aware that he's still alive. They think he's dead just like everybody else, and they're being in kind of witness protection, or MI6 is protecting them because, of course, they think Villanelle is going to go for his family now. So, we do learn that, right? So then, really awesome stuff about Constantine talking about Villanelle to Eve here, and this scene really sets up the whole episode really, really well. After you get to the end, right, and you look back on the scene, it's like, wow, right? The writing here for this episode was stellar, honestly. People are talking about the new showrunner, it's not, as good or whatever. But honestly, I think this episode proves that the writing is at the same level that Season 1 was. It's really awesome. So anyways, so Constantine tells Eve to forget about Villanelle when she asks him about her. So, of course, Eve is trying to get knowledge here on where Villanelle is, because obviously Constantine has those connections, and she thinks that he'll give her the location of Villanelle, right? And so then Constantine tells her to forget about her, right, and calls her a hungry caterpillar, which of course is the title of the episode, right? And so he calls her a hungry caterpillar, who basically just uses people, right, gets into them, kind of eats them. I forget the exact wording he used, but basically eats the insides of them and then moves on, pretty much, right? So also then tells her that Villanelle loves people to death. I love this line, and it's so true, right? And he says, Anna, Nadia, and him, right? All three people that she actually did love, who she ended up killing, right? Constantine's still alive, but she ended up killing these people, loved them literally to death, right? And so that was a really great point. And he says, she will do the same to you, right? She'll love you or whatever, or you think she'll love you, and she'll kill you. She'll love you to death, right? So really awesome stuff you're setting up what is coming in the later parts of the episode here. And then Constantine says she only understands hate, right? She doesn't understand love. She only understands hate. So really great lines here from Constantine. Words well spoken. I miss this guy, right? Really miss this guy. And I'll talk more about his character going forward as well near the end of the review. But you know what I said last review? If you're going to bring Constantine back, you better give him a good role here. You better not just bring him back for an episode for shock value and then kill him off the next episode, right? If you're going to bring him back, you got to give him something, and he's got to become an important character again. And let me tell you, they did exactly that, maybe even more than I expected. And with this scene, they really did prove that. So hats off to them for that one. Really awesome stuff. So then we see Villanelle back to her old self, right? She goes and kills a businessman with his tie through the elevator door. Pretty awesome stuff, to be honest. Obviously, to a certain extent, of course, you feel bad for the guy. But, awesome to see Villanelle back in her kind of element here in the disguise with the black wig on and all that. So it was great, right? We haven't seen this for probably 3 episodes dating back to season 1, and so it is nice to see that again. So yeah, back to her old self, and also a little bit of a time jump here, I think, because she's still pretty sick, and injured, I guess, a little bit in the last episode. So I think about a week or 2 has passed probably between these 2 episodes where she's able to kind of get back to herself, get back to work, if you will. Because she's kind of healthy now, right? So anyways, then we see her new handler tells her that she is sloppy seconds right now because there is a new girl in town they're very impressed with. And he says, you better hope MI6 finds her before us, or you might be out of a job. So basically just threatening her at this point. And you see how far she's fallen, really, since season 1, especially in this scene with the handler, Rodney. The way he's talking to her and all this, like Constantine would sometimes talk to her about that, but she knew, right? She knew that she was their most valuable asset, if you will, and, she was never really in danger of losing her job or something like that. But now, right, you can kind of see the whole tables have shifted, and again, bringing up this idea of this new girl that's going to challenge Villanelle, and I love that storyline. They're taking a bit to get into it, they're setting it up a lot, but I'm hoping it's going to pay off really, really great in the rest of the season. So, anyways, he tells her that Eve is looking for the new girl now instead of her, right? So it looks like she's not thinking about you at all, is what Rodney says in that scene. So again, right, trying to get Villanelle trying to get to her a little bit, right, trying to get her feel jealous, I guess, because Eve isn't focused on her anymore, right? And we obviously know that she is. She knows about this new girl, but she's still very focused on Villanelle. But of course, Rodney's just trying to get to her here, right? And so anyway, so this is why then we figure out why they wanted her to be boring and discreet, so that Eve wouldn't pick it up that it was her kill in that elevator scene. So that's why Rodney wanted her to be boring and discreet. But of course, Villanelle's version of boring and discreet is a little bit different than a lot of other people's, and so that it ends up, being kind of an obvious one, but also a little bit could be seen as an accident, right? But Eve kind of already knows her ways. So anyways, then as he leaves the room, then Villanelle calls Nico's school he works at to complain about him. So really, really awesome stuff here. And apparently this has been happening before. We just haven't seen it, because we learn later in the episode, Nico says they've received many complaints. So Villanelle's been calling and making complaints about Nico for a while now. And again, this just shows her trying to get Eve's attention the hard way, right? She's not able, like Rodney says, to, make a big scene of one of her kills to get Eve's attention. Instead, she's gonna call the school where her husband works at and make those complaints and try to get her attention that way. So really kind of resorting to a little bit, involving a husband, involving the family a little bit. So she's kind of playing dirty here in order to get her attention. So, and it'll definitely work, right? So, as Eve and Nico are going to the event at his school, it's a little drinking party, I guess. Nico leaves early, and Eve walks by herself. This is awesome. So, as she walks, Villanelle walks behind her in a full disguise, ready to pounce, it looks like, right? Ready to pounce. She has the orange hair on. I think she had 4 different disguises I counted in this episode. Or not disguises, but different looks to her in this episode. And that's awesome. Like, I don't know if we've ever seen that many in a single episode. So, really awesome stuff there. So, she's ready to pounce until her handler, Rodney, shows up and distracts Eve. That was crazy, right? So he's not letting Villanelle near her at all costs, right? He's going to prevent them from meeting, or at least Villanelle from meeting. And it's interesting, too, because I think, you know, obviously he knows that she's an MI6, and he knows the connection there. So he's basically just trying to keep Villanelle focused on her task as a worker instead of getting involved with all this extra stuff with Eve, who at this point obviously is not her target. So I do understand that completely. Anyways, a very fast development here from last episode. I mean, we think about the very end of last episode where they drive by, Villanelle drives by in the car, and all of a sudden we're here, right? And Villanelle's like sneaking up behind her all of a sudden. So really awesome stuff, right? So close yet so far once again for these two women meeting, right? And this is the story of basically the whole show up until the finale of last season. It's right. It's a bunch of these moments like so close yet so far. You know, one of those biggest ones was Bill, you know, who got stabbed in that nightclub, and Eve is like right there, right behind, sees Villanelle even, and then it's over, right? And they don't meet. So, anyways, really awesome stuff, again, in this one. So, however, though, that happens. Villanelle's not able to get to her, but Villanelle then somehow gets into the school regardless a little bit later on, and she chats it up with the woman who is flirting with Nico, who Eve feels kind of jealous of, I guess, where I would kind of see her. I kind of believe that she would be jealous here, and I think she has the right to be, the way that this woman is talking to Nico and the way Nico is talking to her. So anyways, just a little bit of stuff here going on, but Nico hasn't got much attention from Eve, so you kind of actually understand, or at least I understand, where he's coming from. And of course he's not cheating, you know, he's not doing any of that, but maybe this, you know, woman is giving him a little bit more attention, or, you know, being nice to him and all that, flirting with him, I guess, and Eve hasn't been doing that. And so you kind of understand this kind of a logical development kind of for Nico in this story, right? So anyways, she chats up with this woman who says it sucks that Nico is married, and Villanelle says she feels the exact same way. That was one of my favorite lines of the episode, because it's so true, right? This woman is like, oh, he's married because she wants Nico, but Villanelle is jealous because, you know, Eve is married to Nico, right? And so, you know, she wants Eve. So that was an awesome line again. Like I said, one of my favorite lines of the episode. They do such a great job with this about characters. The audience knows what that line means, but the characters don't. And they do that so well with Villanelle throughout the show, because these characters are just completely oblivious, but we get it, right? And I feel like that works really, really well. So then, as Eve and Nico go to his classroom to be alone, you know, and maybe have sex with each other or something like that, you know, getting a little freaky or whatever, right? So anyways, because, you know, Eve obviously understands what's going on and wants to distract Nico a little bit. So in the middle of them kissing, Eve notices an apple placed on his desk. And right away, she panics, right? Right away, she panics. So, of course, this is relating back to the apple at the hospital with the boy who she just, you know, discovered in episode 2, but Villanelle killed him in episode 1. And right away, she thinks it has to do with Villanelle, right? Villanelle is involved. Maybe she was there, placed the apple on his desk. And even she asks him, and he says, oh, I just got it from the canteen. But she doesn't even, like, that doesn't even, you know, get into her mind, right? She just hell-bent, it's Villanelle, she was here. So she panics. They walk out, and she pulls the fire alarm, right? And as the building empties, Nico is angry with her, as she always, right? Always is making everything about her. And he says she made this one night about his job all about hers once again. So, you know, and you can definitely understand Nico. I mean, they've done a good job of kind of putting this in the background a little bit to obviously the main plot. But in this episode, they had to tackle this relationship with Eve and Nico and how it's been deteriorating over the course of the last couple seasons even. or last season and so far in this one. And, it's really great. So Nico obviously angry with her, and I agree with him. It's like she's panicking, obviously we find out over nothing, and she's always making it about her instead of Nico. And so anyway, so then despite her, Nico goes back in the building with the flirting woman and tells Eve to head home. So again, I kind of get Eve angry with that as well, but you kind of have to understand Nico. So of course, there's two sides to every coin here. Two sides, to the story, the relationship between Nico and Eve. But you kind of understand both sides at this point. So Eve is left alone outside, and guess who? Villanelle, still in disguise, comes up behind her and drops a lipstick case or a little lipstick little lipstick thing, and drops it in her purse, in her bag. Crazy stuff. Eve is so caught up with this Nico stuff that she doesn't even notice, right? She doesn't even notice anyone come up behind her or do anything. And then when she looks back, Villanelle is long gone, as usual, right? So, and my favorite thing about this was Villanelle's face. The Jodie Comer, the face Jodie Comer made in this scene was awesome. I mean, it's just crazy the way she reacted, almost like breathing in Eve's smell here, and the way that she that got to her, right? It's just insane. So, and again, the direction here was awesome because we could see Eve's face, we could see Villanelle's face, and Eve totally oblivious to it, yet Villanelle is having such a moment, right? So it was really, really awesome stuff there. And then later on, of course, in the episode, we see that Villanelle kind of rigged that lipstick with a blade, and Eve ends up cutting herself on the lip when she tries to put it on later. And so that was pretty awesome. Anyways, so the next day, Eve finds the lipstick in her bag, and the case reads, "Love in an elevator." Right? And exactly a reference to her kill at the beginning of the episode with the businessman in the elevator and the tie. Right? So, of course, Eve puts this together very, very quickly. Eve and Kenny figured out right away, right? And Eve orders him to find the address of Constantine's family so that she can leverage, that she can get leverage over Constantine to tell her where the 12 would have Villanelle staying while she was in London. Because, of course, she knows Villanelle put this lipstick in her bag, so she knows she has to be close. Really awesome stuff. So, of course, Kenny, very reluctant here in this scene, but Eve stands up to him. Eve stands up to Kenny, forces him to do it. Forces him to find the address of Constantine, even though it could greatly compromise Constantine's family and his entire situation here by hacking in and getting the address and possibly releasing that information. Really dangerous thing, but she's hell-bent on finding Villanelle, and maybe even too much so, right? And this is how we see the end of the episode play out. So, the best scene, or the best sequence, I guess, if you want to call it that, of the episode. This one's a long one, but let's get through it. So, Constantine calls Eve with an address where Villanelle could be staying at. So, of course, we do know she's staying at this hotel in the meantime while she's kind of staying there for doing a couple of these kills, right? So, Villanelle goes up the elevator and finds Constantine himself standing in the doorway of the room at the end of the hall. Not her room, but the end of the hall at the hotel. So, the whole way this plays out, I loved it, by the way. I love this whole thing that played out here with Constantine being there, the whole way this plays out with Eve and the backstab. Anyways, so she runs at him, right? She runs at him through the hallway. Again, really great direction here, showing her running that whole hallway down, and then Constantine's face. And of course, she has a knife in her hand too, so he doesn't know what to expect. Of course, she hugs him. She hugs him, right? She doesn't stab him. She hugs him in this scene. And it was really great. Really, really great. Just this reunion. It was awesome, right? So anyway, so she admits to him that she aimed to kill him, right? She shot for his heart, and she is surprised that he's still alive, as we all are, right? So she lies to him then and says that life without him has been much better with Rodney, right? And this new handler is awesome, much better than he is. Of course, we know that's a lie, right? Rodney almost choked her out when they first met, right? So Constantine tells her that he is the one who terminates their contracts, right? Rodney is the one who is probably going to kill her if she doesn't follow orders. And so right away, right, he offers her to come with him, right, instead of sticking in with the 12 and Rodney and all that stuff, because he's going to kill her, right? He's going to try to kill her eventually. And we've already seen, though Villanelle was injured, maybe a little bit vulnerable, he was able to assert, a lot of strength there, maybe, almost choking her out in the car there very quickly on her. So I think it would be realistic that he could kill her, especially if he got a little surprise on her. So anyways, so Constantine, seeing that, he offers her to come with him to his car parked outside on the street, or MI6 will come through that door to get her, right, as he told them where she is. So really, really great stuff here, playing back, because of course he just gave Eve the address to where she would be. So Villanelle doesn't buy it. She doesn't even buy it at first, so he offers to be her partner 50-50, and they will go freelance away from the 12. He says that, or she gets shot by police, right? And Villanelle doesn't want that. So anyways, and then it just really develops really fast here. So as Eve and the police show up on the floor, they raid her room, right? And so again, it's important. She's at the end of the hallway while her room is open. Her door is open, right? So they raid her room. They don't find her, of course, yet Eve walks to the end of the hall when everyone else is focused on her room, where she actually is, and Villanelle looks through the peephole. This was just an amazing sequence here, an amazing scene. Again, the direction was flawless here. Eve, we show in the wall, we see Villanelle. I don't think we ever see in this scene Villanelle looking through. It's really just two sides. One, we see Eve, then Villanelle, right? And we see back and forth, blocked by this door, right? Really awesome stuff. So we see that Villanelle, actually, when she's looking through this peephole, breathes so loudly in excitement, or, just, I'm not exactly sure, maybe sexual or something like that too. But she breathes so loudly that while Eve stands in front of the door, she's kind of rubbing the door, seeing what she's kind of feeling. She either hears Villanelle through the door, hears this breathing, because it's pretty loud. I mean, it's pretty damn loud. So she either hears her, or just perhaps senses that Villanelle was behind that. I'm not sure which way we were supposed to interpret it, but that was the way I saw it. So maybe she either heard her, or just maybe sensed that she was behind the door, because she was kind of rubbing it, right, in that way. So anyways, so she senses that Villanelle is behind this door. She is in this room right here. So she points it out to the police, but as they come in, her and Constantine are gone out the window by the time they break through the door. Really, right? So Eve is foiled again. Again, she doesn't get Villanelle, and again, so close yet so far. That's really the motto for all of this stuff that's been happening with Villanelle and Eve, again, except for last season's finale. So she's foiled again. No way, right? Villanelle and Constantine get away. But then Hugo says, how did she know we were coming? Right? And a really great question here. And again, right away, this sparks Eve, right? Constantine sold them out and got the address to his family. Really just won everything, right? So he told Eve the address, and then got, the address to his family, right? Eve gave him that. And then he just goes off with Villanelle and becomes her 50-50 partner now. So he really won out in this whole thing, really outsmarted everybody. Really awesome. And again, an intense scene here. A lot of suspense. I probably didn't do it enough justice, but obviously my favorite scene of the episode. This was awesome. So anyways, so the aftermath of this decision with Eve. So Carolyn tells Eve to never do something like that behind her back again, which is, the deal with Constantine and trying to find Villanelle. So she tells her that Villanelle and Constantine have chosen their side, and Eve needs to stick to hers, which is finding this new serial killer girl who's named the Ghost, as they call her, right? So she needs to focus on the Ghost instead of Villanelle. She needs to let them go. They've chosen their side. We also see in this scene that Carolyn's actually quite surprised that Constantine made this decision, which I would believe, right? Because her and Constantine really close in the beginning of this episode. And for him to kind of turn the tables here completely is a bit surprising to her. So Eve tries apologizing then to Kenny, who she put into all this mess. I mean, dragged him right through this whole thing and made him do this. And then she says, I didn't do this for myself. I did it because... and she can't finish her sentence. Really great writing here, right? She can't think of another reason because that's exactly why she did it, for herself. And again, just seeing her kind of, thinking through this in live, in real time in front of Kenny, right? Trying to figure out, I did this because, right? And she can't think of it because she did it for herself. The whole thing was for herself, to find Villanelle. There was really no other reason, and she didn't think a lot about it, right? About what the consequences of this would be. We see that Kenny is disappointed in her, as he should be. I mean, you do feel bad for Kenny because obviously Eve is his boss. She orders him to do this. He has really no choice, and he's forced to do it. And he's just disappointed in her. He says, I thought you were better than that. And, it turns out she wasn't in this episode. So, anyways, a really great scene there to see with, Eve and Kenny. And Kenny's such a great character. I really like the way they're kind of pushing him to the forefront here in the first few episodes of this one. So, then we see, at the very end here, Constantine and Villanelle are driving off, starting once again, right? Starting over. Constantine tells Villanelle, Eve talked all about the new girl instead of her, right? And he says, don't be jealous. So, awesome stuff here with Constantine. And she obviously is jealous, right? We see her, and we just know that she would be in these circumstances, right? To me, this really stood out was we see that he knows exactly how to manipulate and torment her, and he's not forgetting that she shot him, right? And so I really feel like he's just getting his kind of, 2 cents in, if you will, really just kind of, getting her back, right? Making her feel jealous about Eve. And of course, he's been now on the other side, so he knows a little bit about what Eve and Carolyn are trying to do. And so, of course, he's going to put that on Villanelle a little bit. So, anyways, this should be an interesting new partnership once again. It's awesome stuff. So I will talk about Constantine in just a few moments, but that just about does it for the end of the episode. We see Villanelle trying to write help on the window, and he rubs it all out. Awesome stuff. So, anyways, really great relationship here developing again with Constantine and Villanelle, which was one of my favorite parts of season 1. So I'm really happy to see it once again. Alright, so in terms of a rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.9 out of 5. For me, this is one of the best episodes of the series. And I just recently saw season 1 too, so it's not like I'm just forgetting how good season 1 was. To me, this is one of the best episodes of the series. I mean, I would say top 5, right? Out of the 11 that we have so far. I guess that's not too big. But, top 4, top 5. Maybe top 3. I thought obviously the season 1 finale episode is probably the best one so far, but this episode was awesome. Again, so much in just 42 minutes that they fit in here. You look at the very beginning, Constantine and Eve sitting on the couch, and Constantine and Villanelle are driving away by the end of it, right? So really, really took this story really, really far in this episode and set up a lot of things going forward too with Eve and Kenny and Eve's kind of focus on Villanelle. Of course, Villanelle, Constantine, Nico and Eve. So just a lot of stories here that they really started up for the rest of the season. So really awesome stuff. And again, did all that I wanted and more. As I said before, the whole Constantine thing, I was like, okay, you're going to bring him back. I'm happy to see him again, but you better not bring him back and then just to kill him off the next episode, right? To just bring that shock value back. And it looks like they're doing the exact opposite of that, which I love. So they're doing that. They're tackling the Eve and Nico story, which I thought has been kind of pushed to the background a little bit too much lately, but it really was present in this episode, and they weaved it in to the Villanelle story really well, so that was really great. Again, Kenny we're seeing more of, so anyways, just everything that I wanted from this episode they gave me, and more. A little bit of a faster pace, a little bit more entertainment, a little bit more tense scenes, right? Everything was in this episode. Awesome stuff. So it seems as though they are holding out on us the first 2 episodes a little bit for this payoff. And you know what? Looking back at those 2 episodes, without those, this episode wouldn't have been as impactful. And so, you know what? Yeah, the last 2 weren't my absolute favorites, but they were really, really necessary in order to have an episode like this. So, obviously, definitely worth noting for sure. So obviously, Constantine and Villanelle, this was really interesting, and I'm so happy to see them back together. Like I said, one of my favorite parts of last season, so I'm really, really looking forward to see it this season. Eve versus Carolyn, at the very end, this is the first time that Eve has really made Carolyn mad. And we see, a little bit of comedic relief where she says, I get tired when I'm angry, so I'm not going to yell or whatever, which is funny. But obviously Carolyn is actually quite angry here. And so we do see that, and I think that's one of the first times that Eve has really disobeyed her. So I think this is going to be a serious thing going forward, and we'll have to see how Eve handles that relationship with Carolyn for sure. So again, really great stuff setting up. So favorite character for this episode, I gotta go with Constantine. Really awesome stuff, played by Kim Bodnia, I believe. This is the first time I've seen him in anything, actually, but he is really great. His laugh is so great. I mean, anytime he laughs in the show is just awesome. But yeah, so to me, Constantine obviously coming back, again, I've said it, too many times, but yeah, really great that they're using him well, because he's still alive. So Constantine, though, I think he's playing at an angle here. I don't think because this is the way I interpreted it, with him going off with a partnership with Villanelle. Again, we have to remember, she killed him, basically, right? Like, he's still alive, but she basically tried to kill him. She even admits that in the earlier scene. And so, I think he has an ulterior motive here. I don't think he's actually trying to be a 50-50 partner where they're going forward. I think he has, something up his sleeve here. As we see in this episode, he outsmarted everybody. So I think he's thinking something else here that even Villanelle doesn't even realize quite yet. So we'll have to see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to how Constantine works into this story for season 2 and how he works now with Villanelle, being a partner with her again. So anyways, awesome stuff in Kim Bodnia, like I said, the laugh, but everything else he does on screen. His on-screen presence is awesome, and then his line delivery too, really, really great. So he's doing an amazing job, as he did in season 1 as well. So anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for the review for this week's Killing Eve episode. Amazing episode, favorite of season 2 for sure, one of my favorites of the series even. Can't describe my excitement for next week. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season, for sure, of Killing Eve. So anyways, again, guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for your support on the channel and these reviews. I do really appreciate that. And again, what do you think of this one? Love to hear your guys' thoughts as always. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for Killing Eve Season 2, Episode 4.
There's something about the way you are that makes